Hi, welcome out to this Echo training webinar. My name is Robbie Law. I'm going to be the host today. I'm very excited today to have Dr. Kareem with us today. Dr. Kareem, I'm going to let you pronounce your last name for me. Now I was sitting here going, I'm going to introduce it and I don't want to pronounce it wrong. Would you mind pronouncing your name for me?
Yeah, it's Hassanin.
Hassanin. I was going to get it. I can say that. I don't know if anyone's going to believe me yet, but want to say thank you so much for being here. We've got a great bout of information that we're going to be sharing with you in our training here today. We're going to be talking about skin, and we've now talked about skin in a couple of different of these trainings. A couple of different trainings now. About a month and a half ago, we had Crystal Zinn on, and she talked about skin in her training as she was describing the fascia and how important it is to keep healthy fascia and to stay hydrated. So for any of you that have not seen this training, make sure and check out any of the previous trainings that we've had. We've talked about filtration. We've talked about forever chemicals, inflammation, all sorts of things. Today, we're going to be handling skin with Dr. Kareem Hassanin once again. So very excited to have him here. Now, at the end of this webinar, like we always do, we always have a very special deal for those of you that jump onto these trainings to learn more and to improve your health. So have that deal, and I'll be popping that out, and we're going to be showing you what that is kind of near the end. So I wanted to remind you to stick around for that, but really stick around so that you can hear and learn from Dr. Kareem today. Got some great information. We've been just chit-chatting as we were getting started here today, and would love, if we can, Dr. Kareem, if you could start by just sharing a quick background on yourself, much like you did with me, and just tell me what your main skill sets are and what you're doing in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a very nice introduction from Robbie. So I'm sort of Dr. Kareem Hassanin. So I'm working as a dermatologist. I was born and bred in the UK. I trained in the UK as well. In addition to my medical training as a doctor, I also have a research background, which has led me to presenting in multiple countries around the world. And I have a strong passion for research. I think, whenever you put something into your body, you try something on yourself, you should know what you should know what the kind of research is behind it. So you're kind of really well informed. I try to live my life in a really healthy lifestyle. I'm quite big into my sports as well. And I just make sure I kind of live the life I would expect other people to live by. So, as my patients would, and, so it's practice what I preach, essentially.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm excited to hear about that. I immediately recognize your authority because you've got the gear to prove it right now. It looks like you're in your office, and are you at work?
I'm not at the moment, actually. I just got back from a late night shift, so I'm still in the flow state, and I should probably change at some point as well. But I thought I'd just keep it on for the
Oh, I love it.
For the viewers out there. Yeah,
I appreciate it. There's studies that show that you got a white lab coat on, you got your scrubs on, people are respecting you. So I'm really glad. But you really have a lot of background and understanding of skin, and to be able to go to multiple countries and share that. I hope that you can come out to the US and you get to meet me. I'm out in Utah. We have great conventions out here. I always love booking speakers like you for great events out here. So we got to connect after this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll sort that out straight after.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm excited to jump into our topic today because, when we talk about our skin, I've not really ever had issues with any skin diseases. My mom had this I think she had when your hands, I think it's called eczema, like really, really dry hands. And so she would always wear, put lotion. She'd wear gloves with lotion on them inside. And so I always was aware of it, but I never really dealt with it. And, I've got kids that are going through teenage years, so they're dealing with acne and things like that. So from a high level, can you just talk to me about my skin and maybe talk to me about what's happening when I have some of these skin issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So the skin is it's a large organ in the human body, and because of how visible it is, it obviously affects people significantly, and that's kind of what really attracted me to it, because it can affect people in a number of different ways. And so you've described two very interesting conditions there. So one is acne and one is eczema, and they're both really, really common in the US and in most of the world. But actually, both conditions work a little bit differently. So with eczema, what happens is that due to various sort of genetic and kind of your body's own immune system, there is a combination which leads to kind of a breakdown in your skin barrier, which is really important in terms of keeping your skin hydrated and keeping your skin nice and healthy and preventing infections. And because of that, what happens is people often get very dry skin. They can get infected skin. It can become very itchy, and it can lead to a number of kind of serious complications for people. And acne is almost the kind of opposite, in the sense that you described that teenagers is a common age where people do get acne, and the reason for that is the kind of hormonal changes. And so what ends up happening is, especially teenagers, and actually even people who are older, sort of there is due to your hormones, there's an increase in kind of sebum production, or the oil glands become quite hyperactive, and essentially your hair follicles kind of all clog up, and the skin starts kind of thickening and blocking these pores, and that's what kind of leads to the common whiteheads and blackheads that we all see. And actually, even on top of that, we all have kind of natural bacteria on our skin, which kind of lives there for most people doing nothing. But when in conditions such as acne, these become a breeding ground for these bacteria, and that is what leads to the kind of skin manifestations that you see. And the thing is, it affects people significantly, and unfortunately people are judged by the way they look. And so I think it's really important to try and kind of shed light on these conditions and things we can potentially do to help people in these situations.
Yeah, thank you. That, first of all, I had no idea psoriasis was, not psoriasis, that eczema is what I call it. Eczema, is that the right?
It's just I think it's just a British pronunciation. Don't worry, it's the same thing. So
this is what British people must
potato. Yeah,
is we don't know how to say words correctly. Well, I didn't know that was due to our immune system and our genetics. Yeah. I had no idea, so that's new information for me today. And, one of the things that I do now that we've had a couple more people get on, and for anyone that's listening in, is just let you know, we're going to go about 40 minutes today. I want to be very respectful of your time, Dr. Kareem. I can already tell, like, being at the end of a shift, you are pushing through to share the information that you have. And I appreciate it so much, because when someone has the willingness to share what they study on a daily basis with others, we get to see into the minute detail that I would never be able to find unless I would take the time to research. And I'm never going to take the time to research any of this stuff. So having you here to kind of just give us the Reader's Digest version, to give us that Reader's Digest version, that is the oldest term. I need to take that out. That is like 20 years ago. You're going to give us the BuzzFeed version. You're going to give us the BuzzFeed version. Just hit it to us really fast. But, I definitely appreciate that. So we're going to go about 40 minutes. And if you have any questions, be sure to put them down into the chat box if you're listening in live, and we can go in and have a conversation at the very end where we can do questions. But make sure you're taking some good notes, because he's going to be dropping some more golden nuggets as we go. So I want to move the conversation to pH naturally, because we talked about this. When we talk about the skin and we talk about the pores getting clogged and that happening, what are some of the things that we can do to help, and what's going on with our skin at that time?
Yeah, that's a really kind of important point you've touched upon there. And so naturally, our skin's pH is a vital sort of component for kind of many of the functions of our skin. And whereas internally, our internal pH tends to be kind of more neutral, slightly, we say basic or alkaline. The ideal pH of the skin, and when I say the skin, it's the top layer of the skin. So if you imagine, if you looked at your skin like this, so the top layer, which we call the stratum corneum, just a fancy word, but the ideal pH for the top layer of your skin is around 4 to 6. So if you remember, if you go back to elementary school science days, 7 is neutral. So anything below 7 is acidic. So the ideal kind of condition is an acidic skin, and the reason that is important is because sort of the acidification of your skin is really important in terms of preventing bacteria colonizing. It plays a role in maintaining the skin barrier, and just the kind of integrity of that top layer, and actually the loss of that pH is commonly seen. And I know I mentioned that acne and eczema are 2 separate sort of conditions, but actually they both lead to your skin's pH going up, and that is what leads to some of the issues, which include a loss of these protective functions, your skin being more prone to infection and more prone to to inflammation. So it's really important to make sure we kind of keep our skin up at kind of a just below kind of neutral acidic range to help it maintain its function.
Is there anything that we can do, like in our diet, in our like natural day, that can kind of assist with this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think we find, and again, a lot of the kind of common things that you wash with. So, a lot of common soaps are really high in pH, and I know you can see the kind of the typical big bar of soaps, especially the old school ones, and they are a bit. They're very harsh on the skin because they push up the pH of your skin too high, and that's when you can start leading to these problems. So from a perspective of washing, the commonly recommended washing tool is something we call Syndet, which means synthetic detergent, and these are a kind of a scope of we say soap-free substitutes, or so they look like soaps but actually aren't soaps, and these kind of maintain your skin at a low a lower pH, and so for people who do listen to this, the spelling is SYNDET, and there are a number of washes which come under that bracket, and so that's kind of an extremely important aspect. When it comes to food, there isn't anything sort of in particular. However, there has been some reports, specifically with acne, that people who eat food with a high glycemic index have found that can flare up their acne. So again, that's not necessarily everyone, but there are people who that does happen to. And if you are someone who does have acne, and it is worth just looking into your diet and looking at the foods you eat and looking at the glycemic index of your foods to see, is that something you could potentially change, and that again is important, and just in terms of empowering yourself and ensuring that you can kind of adjust things within your own life to try and help your skin.
Yeah, thank you. Now, you mentioned, being able to wash our skin, and we're talking about different soaps, and, we have our Eco Ultimate, which is going to be the actual deal that we have today, where the Eco Ultimate is our water filtration and hydrogenation machine that we use. It's the highest level machine that we have. And the Eco Ultimate actually produces 4 types of water. It's filtered water, hydrogen water, acid water, and then alkaline water. And that acid water can be used for so many different things. And so there's the hypochlorous acid, which in many studies has been proven to be, as effective as a lot of the cleanly, extremely harsh, that are man-made chemicals. that we can use. We have a lot of dental offices and different medical offices that use that acidic water to clean the machinery and the tools that they have in their office. When we use acid, I don't think of like putting acid onto my skin. Like that's not like in my head. You know, I'm not going, okay, I should do this. So is acid water something that can be an effective tool to help with these different areas?
Yeah, so this is interesting you mentioned that. So again, when I like to talk about this stuff, I think it's important to kind of back it with the research. And when it comes to acidic water, there was a study done in Korea in 2019, and this was kind of focusing on atopic or eczema, which is also a form of dermatitis. And actually, interestingly enough, in Japan, so Japan is famous for its volcanoes. It has a lot of hot water springs, and one of the common treatment sort of modalities which is offered to patients or recommended to patients who have severe eczema is actually acidic sort of water springs, which is very interesting. And actually, the pH in those springs can be as low as 2.5, which is extremely low, but it's been shown to benefit patients who do have eczema. So obviously, we don't all have access to these volcanic water springs, unfortunately, but and they actually then, going from that, they then looked at a study. It was a small study, and again, I think we also have to kind of understand that we are at the forefront of this. This is all very, very new, and things are, and unfortunately, research does take a lot of time. It's just by the nature of how, methodical it has to be. But they did a small study, which will become a bigger study. But they took about 18 patients who had eczema. And so one of the common treatments people with eczema get is something we call wet wrap dressings, where because their skin gets so dry, you wrap their skin with kind of wet bandages just to maintain the moisture of the skin. So what they did was they got two groups, one with the wet bandage and the other with actually hydrogen water baths. Acidic. Sorry. I'm going on to a different topic. Sorry. Sorry about that.
In your day.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But sorry. But actually, sorry, it wasn't hydrogen water. It was acidic water baths.
Yeah,
I will correct myself. It was acidic water baths, and what they saw was that the people who were in the acidic water baths, their actual improvement in their skin was comparable to the bandage dressing, which is a very common form of treatment we use. And in addition to that, the amount of water which was lost from their skin, and so we have something we use which we can assess that, was reduced by about sort of 20 to 30%, similar to the wet wrap bandages. So actually, it was very equivalent in terms of the efficacy, which again is a small study, but it shows that and the fact that they use acidic water as a treatment method in Japan, and they did the study, which kind of does suggest that this is something which is effective, is an interesting discovery, and something which is going to be kind of looked at further, because this is a relatively recent study, so in the last couple of years. So that's something which we can look forward to.
I did a recent study on this as well. My wife and I have 3 children, and we traveled around the United States in an RV, and we sat in every hot, we call them hot pots, or hot springs. We've sat in every hot spring all across the country, and I can tell you 100% certainty, my wife has the best skin ever. It's soft, beautiful, it's luscious. And so I definitely know that has an impact. So you can mark that right there. Now, one thing I do want to make sure that we say is, we're not here stating like this is the treatment for everyone. When people they come onto a training like this and they hear from a trusted professional or a group that they're trusting, it's very important that we also say, hey, whenever you personally are going through one of the things that we're discussing today, whether it's acne or it's eczema, eczema. I'm going to be correcting a tongue mistake. Eczema or psoriasis or any of these skin conditions we talk about. Just because we're saying, hey, this is an option, it doesn't mean that we're saying this is what you should be doing. Always seek your thoughts from your medical professionals around you, and those who can look directly at you and help you make those choices. So. But coming back to this to me is a very interesting topic, because I always wondered why when we get in water, like when we sit in water for a period of time, I come out and I have grandma hands. Can you tell me what's happening when that happens? Totally different subject, but you know what I'm talking about? Why when I sit in water do I have all of these things going on?
I mean, it's nothing too alarming. It's just the difference in temperature and the density of the water between your skin and the water you're within, which causes the kind of the water from the bath to hydrate your skin to a point where it becomes very it looks very dry, but actually the skin isn't very dry. It's actually very supple and very moist. So for example, when we give patients moisturizers and you put a lot of moisturizer on, it ends up looking like really kind of sort of withered, dimpled skin. So it's nothing too alarming.
No, that to me is like really a very validating point. Like when I go sit in the water, if that water is a certain type of water, I'm going to be absorbing that in some way when there's that difference in temperature, difference in pH level of my skin. So very, very interesting. Now, we talked about kind of the outside in. Now let's talk about from the inside out. We talk so much about hydrogen water on these trainings, because in this organization, we have multiple machines that help people to drink hydrogen water. So I know that you had some understanding of this before we got on, but can you talk to me a little bit about hydrogen water might impact my skin?
Yeah, so hydrogen water. So it's a very interesting concept, because from the skin's perspective, so what hydrogen water is, and as a particle, it's something which we call a reactive water species scavenger. So if you think about your normal, all organs do this, but even the skin cells. So naturally your skin's kind of going about its day-to-day function, is having to respirate, it's having to do a number of things, and when it does that, it produces byproducts, and one of these is and these are generally, the class is called reactive oxygen species. Now, these byproducts aren't necessarily a bad thing. So in our skin, as is in a lot of our organs, we have a kind of a balance between these species and antioxidants. Everyone really knows a lot about antioxidants, and it's really kind of pushed from from these massive drug companies. And there are obviously benefits to antioxidants, but from our kind of homeostasis, we want a balance between both, because actually the reactive oxygen species are important in terms of controlling our cells' function. But there does come a point, and again, the reason this is important, especially as you get older, or even if you have skin conditions, the balance between the antioxidants and these reactive oxygen species goes out of kilter. And if you have too many of these reactive oxygen species, it can lead to something we call it oxidative stress, but essentially, it's these sort of byproducts can then become quite damaging to the skin. And so you get this again, we've discussed eczema and acne, but actually psoriasis is another really common condition. And an example is in psoriasis, where it's another kind of an autoimmune condition where things are a bit out of kilter, and you get a lot of these. I will just call them ROS, because I can't keep repeating it every 10 seconds. And so the balance is completely off. And the beauty about hydrogen water as a molecule and as a concept is that it's we call a reactive oxygen species scavenger. It kind of hoovers up these biparticles, and which allows the body to, again, theoretically maintain this balance. And this is important because it reduces the stress. It can, again, this is what the research has kind of looked at from a kind of a very basic science level. It can help, alleviate kind of inflammation in wounds and just kind of help accelerate healing by kind of removing these byproducts. And actually, interestingly, we talk about the psoriasis, but in acne, there is a treatment we give, a topical treatment, where it's one of its properties is to hoover up these ROSs, which is basically what hydrogen does. So it's got these properties from a scientific point of view are very beneficial, and from the skin perspective, especially in these these people who have these really common skin conditions, there can, again, the research is being done into it, but there can be a role for this. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but there are some studies which have looked at hydrogen water in acne and in psoriasis. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've actually got a couple of those studies that I've dropped in. I'm going to drop a second one in right now, but they're in the comments section, or in that chat section, so you can check out those studies. But, the psoriasis is one that I don't really know much about. Can you explain psoriasis and what's happening in someone's body and in their skin when that's happening?
Yeah, it's so I'm actually someone who has psoriasis, so it's something which I've kind of lived with since I was a young child. But I know this sounds like a bit of a cop out. We don't actually know exactly what the specific cause is, and it's something which is still being researched to this day. But what we do know is that it's triggered by a combination of kind of environmental and genetic components. So commonly, for example, a young child may get a viral infection, and that can suddenly trigger the immune system. And what this does is it leads to kind of overactivity of your immune system. And in the skin, specifically for psoriasis, what that then does is causes your skin cells to reproduce too quickly. And so when you see the typical scaling of the skin, what that is because the skin hasn't had a chance to exfoliate properly, and therefore a lot of that skin is very immature cells which have just kind of stacked up, and again, unfortunately, because of that can lead to a breaking or a dysregulation of one's skin barrier. And it does honestly present significant challenges for a lot of people in terms of their quality of life, in terms of the way they look and the way they feel. So it's something which has a significant impact on people.
Right. And, you had you'd shown me some pictures of this, and I'm wondering if we can get the screen share to work, if you want to give that a try while I kind of set it up. In this, and we do not expect you to be a tech expert, by the way, so no worries if we can't get you're taking skin. You don't need to do everything. So
just give me a second.
When we do utilize hydrogen water, there's a lot of studies, and you can jump on hydrogenstudies.com to check out some of these studies and that is the largest compilation of hydrogen studies that is out there. So there's over 1,200 studies now, human studies, clinical studies, animal testing. There's all sorts of different clinical trials that they've gone through.
It's not the one. Sorry.
This is that was a different screen, but so you can go and look at this. But when we're thinking of why hydrogen may help, and he gives us this understanding of oxidative stress and what's happening with these, what did you call them? They're
ROS.
Yeah, ROS.
Reactive oxygen species. Yeah,
reactive oxygen species. But let's jump over here. Tell us a little bit about this study.
So in this study, so can we see the photos here?
Yep, we can see it. We see case 1, A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, so this was actually what we call a case report. So again, this may have been done in Korea. And so with psoriasis, there are a lot of treatments we use. And so if you can see the patients, so case 1, you can see B, and you can see a lot of lot of kind of plaques, and you see the red lumps, and that is quite bad psoriasis, and the back is quite significant. So what they did for these patients is they essentially put them in a hydrogen bath, a daily hydrogen bath for 8 weeks, to see whether that would have any improvement on in their psoriasis. And actually, if you compare B to D, so D is the after photo and B is the before photo, and you can see there's actually a significant improvement. If that's obvious, I don't know how good the quality is.
No, it's very obvious.
And so they did this with a few people. So again, 2 is quite remarkable. Actually, you can see how significant these plaques are, and that this is bad. And then again, you can see that the redness and the inflammation has gone down significantly. So C and D are the after, front and back photos, and then you've got another one here, case 3. Again, you can see the typical what we call psoriatic plaques, and then you compare it to C and D, and again, you can see that there's a significant improvement there. And again, this is like I said, these are case reports, and because this isn't at the moment a kind of a typical treatment which is used, but like I said, research takes a long time, and so obviously what these people saw was they looked at the benefits of hydrogen water, and then they decided to undertake some of their own kind of cases for patients who were agreeable to it, and it's just very promising to see such results. I'll stop sharing my screen now and let me get back to the normal screen. So, and actually, what's interesting about that is, even from the science perspective, as we've discussed, there is logic to it. So it's really nice to kind of have that matching of logic and practical application. That's the kind of beauty of science when it works correctly. And so so that kind of backs up what we've kind of discussed regarding the reactive oxygen species and the kind of scavenging of that. And actually, interestingly enough, in those same patients, there was a significant improvement in their itching as well, because psoriasis is a very, causes a lot of itching. And so, so again, these are all kind of really promising signs from for the role of hydrogen water. Yeah,
and that's once again another like feather in the cap, I guess, for hydrogen. Hydrogen is the super molecule. It just does so much, and it's such a beneficial part of what we can experience here on Earth. It's hard to get it in the food systems that we have. We had an expert on a couple weeks ago that was talking about the deterioration of the food and how it's harder for us to even take food and create hydrogen in our natural systems inside of our digestive system to create more hydrogen. It's becoming harder to do that, the types of food people are eating and all of that. So, hydrogen is something that we definitely promote a lot. And you were talking about the impact that it has on skin being so logical. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to use Echo products yet, but if you haven't, I would love to be able to send you an Echo Go Plus. Do you have any Echo products?
I fortunately do not. I guess because being in the UK can be quite tough. But I was probably meaning to ask you about getting one, actually, because like I said, I've read a lot into it, and like I said, I have that condition myself, so it would be something I would definitely be willing to try.
Yeah, I'm going to drop this product offer in for everyone so you can see. So this is the Echo Ultimate. Now, to get a whole home filtration system and to get all the things, there's other things that we can do. If you had a whole home filtration system, we're able to filter out some of what is in the water system that's getting onto our skin from the chemicals, from pesticides, pharmaceuticals that are coming in through the water systems. So having filtration is important. This is an over-the-counter, under-the-counter option where you actually can have filtration right there over or under the counter. And it also produces, like I mentioned, 4 different types of water. So the Echo Ultimate is like the top end of our product line. And when you buy the Echo Ultimate today, you get 2 Go Pluses. Now, those Go Pluses are a portable way for us to carry hydrogen water with us so that we can have it on the go. Always recommending bottled or filtered water for the Echo Go Plus. But the Echo Go Plus is something that I definitely know we can get you one of those sent out for your time here today, Dr. Kareem. I thank you so much for jumping on with us. I want to spend more time talking, but I also want to respect that you've had a very long day. You jumped on after your shift and you shared your expertise with us here today. So if you have any parting words or any thoughts or advice that you have for anyone on here on how they can improve their skin health, now would be a great time to share any parting words.
Yeah, I just think the skin is a very complex organ, and I come across a lot of sort of patients who can get very frustrated at times when it comes to treatments, and like I said, there are a lot of things which you can change in your own life in terms of your diet and in terms of your kind of exposure to the sun and things like that, and it's very important just to kind of try, and I think the one thing we try and do is try to empower people when it comes to in terms of taking care of their skin, and again, I guess not just in terms of the skin, but in terms of empowering yourself with knowledge and information. So these kind of webinars are very useful just to kind of make sure you're kind of up to date with what's going on and the important things which are happening. The one thing I was going to add is, so I actually have a newsletter. We send out sort of weekly insights into the importance of water and hydration and overall wellness. And it's not just written by me; it's written by a number of my colleagues and a medical professional. So we would, so I would just like to, if you're okay with
it, link it in the chat box. I was going to ask you about that at the end. I was going to say, how can we follow up with more information to learn more about this, to get a better understanding? And I did have one quick question in the chat box that I feel like you'd be the best to answer on this. But someone's saying, for healthy skin, do you recommend rinsing the skin with alkaline water or acid water? Is maybe she was saying one or the other. And if so, what pH of that should the water be?
So that is a good question, and I think that depends on whether you have, as we've discussed, whether you have any skin conditions. So, for example, if you're someone who suffers with things such as acne and eczema, the recommendation would probably be just to try and, as we said, to kind of maybe stay on just kind of a bit more on the slightly acidic side, because that's more beneficial for your skin with those conditions. However, again, there are also reports of certain people benefiting from slightly more alkaline water. So I think my answer would be your own test case. Maybe if your skin is a bit oilier or a bit drier, try it, going slightly kind of acidic and seeing whether it works. But if not, then it's okay to try going a bit over the other side. What I wouldn't recommend is going too extreme one side or the other, because no extremes are good in life. So that would be my recommendation. But again, it's very difficult to give very specific advice, and unless I know that what your skincare routine is like, what else do you use, and whether you have any kind of underlying skin conditions. But that would be my kind of general kind of recommendation.
And could I just get one bit of clarification? So you mentioned alkaline, you mentioned acidic. Would you include hydrogen water in that mix and use that as a skin cleaner as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like I said, we've discussed the cases here, and again, it's something we talk about the reactive oxygen species. Again, trying it out, seeing how it helps. Helps your skin. There's no harm in trying, and like I said, we've shown some use cases here of where it is beneficial.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time once again. I'm going to let you go, and thank you for all the years that you've put into researching what you have to get to this point, to be able to share it with us. please look me up. I really want to be able to bring you out here to Utah to talk about this stuff. Maybe I should tell Echo we need to run a big event out here and we can bring you out here. And
yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Utah is the best, so we'd love to have you out here. But thank you so much once again. Thank you everyone for being on here. Make sure you follow through with that offer. Click on that link. Go check it out on the website. You can always go to echoh2o.com. And anytime that we do this training, we usually do them Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We did it a bit earlier to respect Dr. Kareem's schedule. And you can jump off at any time, Dr. Kareem, while I wrap up. Thank you once again for being here.
Okay.
But
I was just going to say, I've dropped it. So I've dropped the link there. So when you press onto that link, it will go to the sign up page for the newsletter. And you can just sign up with your email, and yeah, we send out sort of weekly insights into the world of skin health and water filtration. I hope Robbie signs up as well.
Let me jump in there right now. I'm putting it in. I'm putting in my email. Yes, as we speak, you have one new newsletter follower. Right.
I'm just waiting for the notification. Brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone.
Up it says. Okay, thank you. You're awesome. Thank you for being here. And once again, thank you, everyone. Next week, we will be back again Tuesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So jump back on. We'll learn more about how you can be healthier and how we can use Echo products to help maximize our life. We'll see you then.
Okay.